Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Gomes. This is the second recording I made on this date, December 23rd, 2023. And it's around 1:30 in the afternoon. Hopefully, the connection will stay this time. And so let's look at the chart for right now. Again, if you'd like a reading with me, if you'd like an astrology reading with me, by the way, the purpose of this channel is to actually to give you a forecast for uh, planetary transits of the next week based upon Vedic astrology, not Western astrology. And so the signs will be roughly um, around 23 degrees or around 23 days off from what a Western chart would be. So most signs will flip back to the previous sign. So let's say if you're a Libra, most Librans will be Virgos. If you're a Cancer, most Cancers will be Geminis. If you're a Pisces, most Pisces will be Aquarius. Okay, so simple enough. Um, if you're born after the 15th of the month, you'll keep your Western birth sign. And your rising sign, if you know your rising sign will change as well, and et cetera, et cetera. So let's see now. So 23 degrees is the mark-off point. That's really where the determination is made. And let me just see. And I gave a little bit of a lecture I posted earlier today, and I'd like to reiterate that. Even if times are tough, even if things are difficult, the key element is not giving up. The key element is persisting in your goals, persisting in your ambitions. And to me, that's actually there's a figure of speech used in Vedic astrology, and that is burning off karma. Actually, it's used by Westerners who practice Vedic astrology. I have heard some Indians use it. But basically, burning off karma is usually interpreted to mean that um, you're paying for past mistakes in a birth chart. You're paying for things you did incorrectly in a birth chart. Burning off karma can also include putting some effort into improving your situation and not just falling back on the tendencies in your birth chart. And what started this entire discussion for me were some things that I was reading about cycles um, and accelerationism. And accelerationism, for those of you who don't know what it is a theory that if you have a period in which things seems to be falling apart, so the cycle theory is essentially there's like seasons to every epoch of human behavior. And I think that's basically true. And actually, it's a basic marketing concept. Okay. When you're looking at it, so I have a master's in business administration. I studied marketing. There's a market cycle to a product, and there's a birth, a youth, a middle age, and an old age to human beings. But just because we get to old age doesn't mean we have to speed up the process, or just because we get sick doesn't mean we have to say, "Oh well, I'm going to die anyway. I'm going to stop doing things." And um, I think one of the things is that it can stop a person from trying to make the world a better place, or fulfilling their ambitions, or burning off their karma, which is essentially part of fulfilling your ambitions. Um, so, so long story short, just because things seem like they're in kind of a precarious state right now, we've been in precarious states before. I believe this one source that I heard that indicated that human beings were down to like 137 individuals at one point, like a really small number of human beings had survived one of the um, one of the events, one of the one of the transitional events in the Earth's history, and we came back from that. So I think also there can be either an aversion or a modification, a synthesis, as it were. And also, I've noticed most of the changes that we've encountered, especially over the past 500 years, have largely been technology driven, not driven um, by desires for good and evil or by bad events. And they've also been somewhat connected to greed. And the ones who benefit from accelerationism tend to be people who have the resources to protect themselves. So essentially, you're protecting. Um, if you agree with that particular cycle viewpoint of history or that particular approach to history, you're actually helping the people who've been winning all along. So it's sort of like you're stacking the deck against yourself. So something to think about. I am, given the current astrological factors, I've been through periods like this before where people have felt pretty hopeless um, about life events and about the direction of the country. For those of you who don't remember the 70s, the 70s and late 60s had similar feelings about them, although the late 60s were generally more optimistic. Um, and I think, and again, the 30s had sort of a changing environment to them. So I think one of the things you have to keep in mind is there is no inevitability about cycles will occur. How we react to them depends on how we come out the other side. Okay, so so I'm an astrologer. Definitely, I believe in cyclic events. The planets go in certain cycles, but they're combined differently in at various stages. So one cycle never repeats exactly another cycle. You'll see similar large events like Saturn Jupiter conjunctions occur every 30 years. So you'll see big changes happening when Saturn Jupiter conjunctions occur. But you'll also have rarer Saturn Jupiter nodal combinations. You'll see, um, and sometimes the inner planets will actually have their say in how that particular event manifests. So again, this is something I'm just saying as kind of a cautionary note. Don't be afraid. Don't be worried about the future. Look at what's coming. Look at what's um, needed to preserve the best of the past while holding on to the future and not resisting the future. And if certain elements of the future annoy you or bother you or worry you, do something about it. There's nothing to stop you from doing something about it. Okay. A lot of times we stop ourselves by saying, I'm so small, I'm so insignificant, what can I do? And that's patently untrue. People can make changes um, at any point, at any time. They can write, they can express themselves, they can actually change the world. Okay. Individuals and groups can change the world. So, all right. So, into that, if you want to study astrology with me or if you want a reading, contact me at 508 525 0001. That's my direct phone number. Again, that's 508 525 0001. My email is GaryGomesG@gmail.com. And you can also contact me. I have accounts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Rumble, Messenger. You can contact me through a variety of different places. Messenger's the one I'm least happy about people contacting me from, because through or contacting me through because sometimes I have different messenger pages and sometimes I don't check those. So the most reliable way to contact me is through either calling me or texting me at 508 525 0001. Okay. Now that advertisement's out of the way, I will be raising my prices slightly after the new year. If you want to get in at the current rates for instruction, just contact me and I can set that up for you. If if you want to reserve a reading, contact me. I can accommodate you. I'm not expecting to go up a lot next year, but just a bit. And I want to make sure that you get the benefit of the lower pricing structure. All right. So also, I will be on the air with my friend John Karazian to talk about the world sometime between now and New Year's. And I'll also be talking with other astrologers over the coming months. I know I promised this for a while. And let's see now, more frequent broadcasts, and that's been said before. Better production values, that's been said before. They're all coming. I just have to get a couple of other pieces of software to talk with each other, and I should be all set. All right. So that having been said, let's look at what the planets are doing this week. So we have Saturn aspecting Jupiter. So when I started this morning, Saturn was in the first house, and Rahu was in the second house. And right now I have Jupiter and Moon in the first house. So this is a good time to start writing projects or to start communications activities. And overall, we're hearing a lot of communications about government, politics, some communications about economics, although not as much as previously. And also, at least from the chart, some concern about expenses. Okay, so it's that time of the year, that's obvious, but there is growing concern about natural catastrophes because K2 is in the sixth house in the chart. Venus is in the seventh house. There's a growing desire for peace, which will be quashed within a couple of days, unfortunately. And essentially, Venus is in its last degrees of Libra. It's aspecting Jupiter and Moon, and that's a good, and also Rahu, the way I use Venus aspects. And Mars is aspecting Saturn. Saturn is aspecting Mars. So what does this mean in plain English? Well, basically, as Saturn starts to aspect Venus, there'll be this feeling of nostalgia or maybe even desire for things to go back to the way they were. And you'll especially hear from people from the past over the next week or so. So that's within about 3 days. And also Saturn aspecting Mars, this is desire for perfectionism. So everyone wants to have essentially either a perfect answer or a perfect position, or they'll nitpick you to death. This is like what I like to call a perfectionist combination. And one of the reasons I came up with that opening monologue is because everybody's going to expect everything to be perfect, and it's just not viable. So within about 5 days, Mars will go into Sagittarius. This could trigger some um, explosive activity, some attempts to start wars, um, and also a lot, like what I would call a ton of political lying, um, and what I would call misrepresentation happening within the next couple of weeks. So don't be surprised if you hear um, a lot of pressure for war or pressure um, for conflict over the next uh, few weeks to the next month through around mid-January, because Mars and Mercury are essentially fighting each other. Um, you will see some reversals of direction in legal matters over the next week or so, and I think, but I think also you'll see, as I've said before, deliberate lies floated, both in media and on the part of the government. And this is not necessarily just true of the United States. The Saturn Mars mutual aspect is actually kind of a nasty combination because it encourages the worst impulses for control of communications and control of media that most governments have. So this is not going to be just true in the United States or on social platforms. This will be true universally. So there are some efforts excuse me for putting my hand over my mouth. There are some efforts in the UK to ban certain social media sites. There are some, so again, I'm not going to mention the social media site. And there are efforts to censor social media coming out of Ireland. There are efforts to censor social media. Uh, again, coming out in the United States, that'll be a very strong movement. And this will be a lot of the pressure will be put on this in this direction over the next couple of weeks in particular. Um, and there'll be um, also there'll be trade arguments or trade discussions. But again, the one thing I'm worried about with this Mars recombination in Sagittarius, especially in this particular point in space, is it'll make a lot of people trigger happy. Uh, so there'll be a lot of agitation to start bombing or to start a conflict. And like I said, this isn't just true of the United States. This is true really much around the world. So does that mean I think a world war will start? No, but places where there have been a lot of small conflicts brewing, it'll probably pop them just a little bit. Um, the other thing you want to look at is Rahu's in Pisces. Again, it's kind of a flip on um, on dogmas. So essentially, especially if we've been operating under a dogma for the past 38 years or so, that'll flip. That'll essentially shift it back. That's um, two cycles of the lunar eclipses. And Saturn in Aquarius, again, technological innovation will continue. You will see a lot more technology, but um, interestingly enough, I was looking at a television special about jobs, and although we're not in a recession, um, hiring is not quite as robust as it first appears to be. And the main reason for that is because um, the number of job openings is has been inflated because we have companies that keep um, because there's such high turnover, companies are keeping positions open for virtually perpetually. Okay, because they're expecting people to leave rapidly and they're expecting people to get out of their positions. So it's not it's not horrible. You know, the economy is still growing, and a recession is defined in terms of the economy, economic growth or contraction. But um, and I'm going to make one more point about the world scene in particular. Um, but job opportunities are not quite as robust unless you really want to look at the lower end of the spectrum. You know, so the service industries and the minimum wage jobs. Um, the other thing that Saturn does when it aspects Mars, and Mars aspects when it does Saturn, is it um, constricts the availability of energy. So there have been some, um, I think it was pirate activity in the Gulf of uh, connected with the Arabian Sea, I think, or something like that. And there have been attacks on oil tankers in the Middle East. So that will inevitably drive up the price of oil, I think. If we're talking about Ukraine, again, we're kind of a stalemate for at least another few months, I think, because nobody's really going to want to be willing to give up the position they're holding. So Ukraine will be stubborn and Russia will be stubborn. And again, I'm talking about this as if it were a battle of equals. It's really not. Russia has um, much more um, military resources than Ukraine does, and I think it's basically, I won't say it's a foregone conclusion that Russia will win, but really the odds are stacked very much in their favor. Um, and this has actually nothing to do with the military aid the United States can send over. It's really not. Um, in the in the long range of things, it's not going to make a difference. To be if I mean basically truthful. Now again, I could be wrong. It's always a possibility I'm wrong, but uh, I don't think this is going to end well for Ukraine. For the rest of the chart, the Jupiter Venus opposition gives a certain amount of focus on justice and truth, as I said last week. So you'll see more people talking passionately about those areas. And essentially, the war between um, what's essentially a legal system, an established legal system, and how we expect people to behave morally is going to be an ongoing debate. Okay. So let's go on to the individual signs for this week. We have Moon and Jupiter in the first house for Aries. That's a good combination. I'm gonna get out of this and come up again. It looks like it's displaying, and this will make this sign want to communicate with people at home. It will make them want to write. It will make them want to be happier or be more resourceful. Um, the Lord of the first is in the eighth house. It really can't express its true feelings, to be honest with you, because it has a lot of responsibilities and a lot of attachment to gains from this chart. But it's not a bad combination for money. Relationship life seems to be better for Aries. Communication seems to be a little bit garbled, though, because of Mercury retrograde, which is common. But there should be some good sales if you go out shopping. Mars is in the eighth house. Again, people with this combination tend to be a little bit at the mercy of their spouses or relationship partners. Sun's in the ninth house. That's actually a good combination. So it'll give increased luck, especially from supervisors, slow gains, and heavy expenditure rates. So not a lot of change from each week. Okay. The two big differences are Venus will go into the eighth house and before the end of the next week, and Mars will move into Sagittarius by roughly by within 2 weeks. So you'll see this sign become more aggressive probably by the end of next week, and relationship partners will become a little bit more reticent and a little bit more difficult to deal with. But basically, right now, it's pretty good. For Taurus, Taurus has Mars in the seventh house, so there's a lot of focus on relationship life and a lot of focus on health. This sign's probably overeating or overindulging, but there'll be a balance. Sun and Mercury are in the eighth house in Sagittarius. Not a bad placement, but again, there'll be a tendency for fights to break out at home, especially over hidden expenses. And Saturn's in the 10th house, good for career growth. Jupiter and Moon are in the 12th house. Again, a little bit too much impulsive spending. Rahu's in the 11th house. Good for recognition, but not really good for financial security, as you'll have to essentially you'll overestimate what you'll get from people, basically. But there should be some fame for this sign this week. For Gemini, Gemini has Rahu in the 10th house, Mercury's in the 7th house. So again, there's that feeling of sadness or regret connected with a relationship life, maybe even detachment or feelings of anger towards relationship partners, and also lack of communication. That'll improve by around mid-January, but the lack of communication is a really big problem for this sign. In terms of financial growth, looks like a good week for financial growth. You'll have a lot of opportunities to achieve fame and also financial improvement. The sun is Lord of the third house, so it's good for increased exposure through partnerships, even distant partnerships, and also support from family, although family will seem a little bit distant or a little bit remote. People with the sun sign should also watch out for health problems connected with mom or within the family. For children, children have been relatively well behaved over the past 2 months or so. Venus goes into this sign within a couple of days, and it'll start to be a little bit oppositional. Sun is in the 7th house, not a bad combination, so it gives good career exposure. Saturn is in the 9th house, but slow gains from government, slow gains from authority figures. And Rahu gives fame, Jupiter gives gains. We already discussed that. For Cancer, Cancer has the moon in the 10th house along with Jupiter, so this sign will be recognized for its wisdom or its intelligence. this week. Sun is in the second house. The Lord of the second house is in the sixth house, so there is a strong potential for financial gains, especially through either acting or presentation, and also through hard work. For Venus is in the fourth house, it will go to the fifth house, so there could be some kind of relationship or love affair that starts for this particular sign over the next couple of weeks. And let's see now. There's a Sun Mercury conjunction in the sixth house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. So again, watch out for skin problems. Watch out for problems with relatives. Seventh house Lord is Saturn. Lord of the seventh is in the eighth house. So long-term relationships still tend to be elusive for this sign. Let's see now. Rahu's in the ninth house. So there'll be opportunities for fame or enrichment for this sign. And as I said before, career life looks really, really good. Not as many expenses for the sign as for other signs, because we have what's called the Viprit Raj Yoga, where the Lord of the 12th house of expenses is in the sixth house. So any money you spend to promote yourself will be well spent. For Leo has Sun in the fifth house. So this sign will be definitely have his fighting gloves on. But that's not a bad thing. And as a matter of fact, it's actually a relatively lucky month for this sign because it will bring money in. It will bring some temporary reversals and financial setback. It will put those on pause. And also, Mars in the fourth house and involved with the seventh house tends to give problems with relationship partners and also some feeling of the relationship partners are distant or critical. Home life is a little bit jambled, status is a little bit hurt. Rahu's in the eighth house. The eighth house has to do with hidden matters. So there are hidden scandals connected with the sign, but those will remain hidden for another year and a half or so. This sign's luck has been changing over the past couple of days. It's interesting because Donald Trump is a Leo rising, and a lot of the things I'm saying right now tend to indicate. So it's a mixed bag for him, and that is he is experiencing some both negative and positive expectations. And we'll have to see how those play out after early January. But yeah, definitely Rahu's in the eighth house. So there's scandals which could put him in jail. And this is true not of every Leo rising. It depends on your particular birth chart. But there are hidden scandals or relationship dissatisfaction for a lot of Leos. And but also an improvement in luck, especially with Venus aspecting Jupiter. Now that'll change within a couple of days, but Venus will go into the fourth house, so that would give an increase in status. So it's kind of interesting to look at these things if you have a real world figure connected with them. And so, and again, I know at this particular point in time it could go either way for the former president, but we'll see what happens. And Mercury is in, so he's spoken about that already, past life credit, past life luck. Jupiter in the ninth, though, is very lucky, and that's about it for this particular sign. K2's in the second house, again, there is the potential the sign will lose money, lose some money. All right. But again, that's kind of delayed. We have a Virgo. This is Virgo rising or Virgo sun or Virgo moon. This sign has K2 in the first house. It only recently transited there. It only recently moved there. So that'll make this sign a little fuzzy, a little bit forgetful, a little bit, but also make it very sharp and very intuitive at the same time. Venus is in the second house, so money should actually come fairly easily to this sign, but that'll fade away a little bit. And acting skills will improve after around 3 days, and courage will improve within around 3 days. Mercury's in the fourth house, it's retrograde. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but this sign will feel a little bit like it doesn't know what it's want. That's increased by K2 being in the first house. And let's see now. Saturn's in the sixth house, so you have to be careful about diseases or illness. Rahu's in the seventh house. There's a lot of temptation to try to link up with different partners, both relationship-wise and business-wise. Is so this is kind of a mixed bag for this sign. I'd wait at least until late April, early May, because you may end up meeting a soul partner from this combination. But one thing I will warn you about is they won't be quite what they seem, and you really won't see entirely what they're like until uh, April, late April. So it's honestly a bad time to pick up with a relationship partner, but don't make any commitments. Okay. Jupiter and Moon are in the eighth house. This is a good combination for people paying you back money that you're owed, and also for financial growth. And let's see now. Yeah, so that's about it. There are no planets over here, although Venus is well placed in this chart for financial growth, and Mercury's well placed for career growth. So you'll be revisiting some parts of your old career life. For Libra, Libra's had this blessing of Venus being in the first house for the past month and a half or so. It's been a relatively good transit, especially after that really nasty transit in September, excuse me, and basically September to October. And basically, if Venus is in this particular sign, it tends to produce financial growth, financial improvement. Mars is in its own sign in the second house. Saturn is in its own sign in the fourth house, or in the fifth house, excuse me. And Sun and Mercury are in the third house, giving this sign more courage to follow its dreams or its ambitions. And some of these will be ambitions that's held for a long time. But that's Saturn in the fifth house. As long as you're patient and you go with gusto for what you want, you'll get what you want. Okay, so keep that in mind. There are some difficulties with relationship partners, to be honest, because relationship partners will want everything their way over the next few weeks, or the next couple of weeks. And let's see now. 1, 2, 3. Jupiter, Moon are in the seventh house. Rahu's in the sixth. So, actually, not a bad time to meet a good relationship partner or start up a business partnership. But there'll be delays or blockages on it. So this isn't a bad time to do it, but you'll have to really struggle through and stick with it in order for it to come to fruition. And let's see now. Eighth house Lord is Venus. Venus is in the first house. So overall, good health for this sign. Mercury is in the third house. So good communication skills, although a little bit of the progress that was made over the past month has been whittled away. And you'll find yourself lapsing back into quiet behavior or being too quiet for your own good. But again, good for bargains. It's a good Mercury retrograde is a good bargain hunter's sign. And let's see now. Career life looks very good for writing, especially if you discipline yourself over the next couple of weeks. And let's see now. Anything else? Sun is in the third house. So again, if you have ambition for money, try to make that come true. K2 is in the 12th, so there really won't be that much care about holding on to a lot of money, and intuition will be very sharp. A little dangerous for small animals. So for Scorpio has Mars in the first house, so and Saturn aspecting Mars, so that will make the sign very disciplined over the next few weeks. And let's see now. Mercury, Sun and Mercury are in the second house. This sign will be prone to lying a little bit over the next few days, though. But a lot of confidence, a lot of savvy, uh, but a little bit of carelessness as well, because it really can't trust its friends. It really can't trust what it thinks are its allies. Um, and it's really not listening to good advice, if I'm honest. That's really the weakest part of this particular chart. It's good for finances, but children are problematic, and also financial matters are problems. So past behavior connected with finances will come back to haunt this sign. And let's see now. Venus is in the 12th house, good for saving money. That'll change within about 2 days. So overall, not bad for Scorpio, but not brilliant looking ahead. For Sagittarius, Sagittarius has Lord of the first and the fifth house, so that's good for general overall luck. And let's see now. Rahu's in, I'm checking this one. Rahu's in the fourth house, so there'll be some disarray or some miscommunication on the home front, some dissatisfaction on the home front, but children and past efforts will get rewarded slowly, but they'll get rewarded. Also, the sign has the discipline that it needs to ask for what it wants and to just ignore negative speech. For this sign overall, K2's in the 10th, so a lot of the good things this sign has done will not be really recognized. And let's see now, K2's in, Venus is in the 11th house, so good for financial gains again. Mars is in the 12th house, so there'll be a lot of expenses connected with property. For Capricorn, Capricorn has Lord is Aquarius, a lot of focus on money, a lot of focus on fulfilling ambitions. Home life is relatively stable and secure, and I think you'll find relationship partners generally supportive or generally helpful. For let's see now. Let me go over here. Venus is in the 10th house, so that gives good career growth potential. Mars is in the 11th house, good for financial gains. And K2 in the 9th house, bosses will be kinds of difficult to please, or they'll be changing their minds all the time. Sun and Moon and Mercury are in the 12th house. That's good um, for eliminating debts and financial expenditures. So that's actually not a bad placement. For Aquarius, Aquarius has Rahu in the second house, so it'll want more money, it'll want more recognition, it'll want more of everything. Jupiter's in the third house, along with the moon, so it's a strong pull or desire for fame or to be listened to. Let's see now. Venus is in the ninth house, good luck from teachers, from spiritual people. Mars is in the 10th house. Again, a lot of people with this combination will tend to be very, very strong-willed about achieving their career goals. And Sun and Mercury are in the 11th house. That'll give you easy access to career goals. Finally, for Pisces, Pisces has Rahu in the first house, Ketu in the seventh. So you'll tend to attract kind of unusual or um, intuitive partners. Um, there's some possibility of it being somebody connected with your past, with Mercury being in this particular sign. And also, Jupiter's in the second house. It'll make you more prone to speak your mind, say what you want to say. And that's it. And if I look more carefully at the chart, we see Venus is in the eighth house, so that'll give sudden expansion of wealth from windfalls. Um, Mars is in the ninth house. Good luck if the chart is self-determined enough to follow through on things. And finally, Saturn's in the 12th house. Again, excess expenditures, but mostly on learning activities. So let's switch over to the relocate map, time-space change map, which should give us the astro mapping for this particular chart. Right. So where do I see problems? I see problems in Hawaii again. Okay, so there are volcanoes going off in Hawaii. Not a surprise. And as a matter of fact, Venus, I think there'll be some more explosions before the end of the week, given Rahu, Jupiter, and how close they are to Hawaii, and also how close um, the moon is. So this will give some disruptions and even some flooding, I think. Alaska has Venus and Sun passing through it. There'll be increased financial benefits coming into Alaska. Saturn's over California. It's really almost directly over San Francisco, so or Sacramento. So there'll be problems connected with both the governor's office and also with San Francisco, especially in terms of the poor. It's not quite in San Francisco. It's closer to Sacramento, but it's almost 2/3 of the way up from Los Angeles to San Francisco. San Francisco, it looks like to me. Yeah, so this is where San Francisco would be right here. And the Saturn line is passing through Nevada and Idaho and into eastern Canada. I think what that could mean is we'll have some political scandals or some economic shortfalls in those areas, and inflation will continue because of loss of financial manufacturing. For the Mercury Mars conjunction is over Texas, over Mexico, Mercury Mars Sun, and it's over Arizona, Mexico. It'll involve Texas and North South Dakota and Nebraska and Oklahoma. So essentially, you'll see increased state control happening in those areas. You have Rahu passing through Wisconsin all the way down to Louisiana. That'll give some panic. I tend to pay more attention to Rahu lines than any other lines because it gives financial panic. And Rahu's cutting right through Nicaragua and right into um, South America, and this particular line is affecting Chile and Argentina the most. So the Argentinian was just, let me just see now. Yeah, so there's some panic in the west coast of South America, Panama, and down into Tierra del Fuego. There's a moon line and a Rahu and a Jupiter line passing over. So Moon Venus potential for flooding in the Northeast, um, especially in Massachusetts. Potential for political or legal scandal in Washington D.C. all the way down into Haiti and the all right. For there's a Saturn line going right over Greenland and right over Brazil. So again, slowing down the Brazilian economy is indicated, but more focus on the poor. And you have Rahu. So essentially, Brazil has this um, attribute of being hammered by next week. Okay, um, and also some government restrictions, some government shutdowns. And let's go over to Europe and Western Africa. We have a sun line and a Mars and Mercury line coming out the west coast of Africa, indicates some scandals or some line coming out of the government. The other thing is we have a Rahu line going right over where Belgium is, and also over, oh gosh, let's see, there's a Rahu line going right over Germany, connecting with Spain, connecting with Corsica, connecting with Egypt overall. So let's see. And let's see now. Where else do I want to go? I'm not done yet, folks. Yeah, so there'll be some panic in Norway all the way through Libya, all the way down into Little Gabon. And also some scandal connected with the government roughly between Poland and Norway, and it'll become very public, um, especially um, the moon sign being where it is. Let me just. And let's see now, we have a Jupiter line running through Eastern Europe, down into Algeria, down into Central Africa, down through South America. So that should indicate some legal proceedings in those countries. There's a moon line heading close to Ukraine, and it's being intersected by a Saturn line. Again, not good news for Ukraine. And let's see now, and there's a Saturn line running through Saudi Arabia and Iran. So Iran's going to get some really bad news over the next couple of days. And there's a Mercury Mars conjunction over Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Russia, and touching into England. So some risk of terrorist threats, some risk of domination by another culture, both in India and Pakistan and Afghanistan. We have a Mars Sun line coming after that um, in the middle of India. So again, not necessarily government scandal, but government slowdown, economic slowdown. And let me see if I can raise this up a little bit. So you can see where the Saturn line falls over here. You can see where the Mercury and Sun line sit. And as we go over to China, I'm sorry, Cambodia, then up through Vietnam, then up through Thailand, and into China and into Russia, we can see there's some panic starting there, some confusion. Rahu's over Indonesia, which is a large economy, very, very large economy, fourth most populous country in the world, I believe. And so, it's actually kind of a big deal in the world. And so some panic connected with the government there. Um, there's a Jupiter line passing over eastern China and also Indonesia. So I think, and also close to Borneo. So I think that Jupiter line will offset the Saturn line quite a bit and will make it easier for you to talk and get what you want. Let's see now. The moon sign is moon sign is Aries right now. So this will make Japan pretty publicity savvy. It will make them very, very strong-willed, and it passes over Indonesia. This moon sign passes over Indonesia, and so it should be, and it even goes over South America. So wrapping up, we have moon hitting Japan, hitting Australia, some potentials of flood in Japan, to be honest with you. And let's see now. Okay, so let's go over to New Zealand and Japan. So some flooding over here, and again some um, legal restrictions. Saturn has made some noises about banning certain publications or restricting certain publications. They're lying in order to do it. And that's just from the astrology. I'm not impugning their character. I don't know their character. And New Zealand is kind of out. I would say licking its wounds right now is going to get a break from. There are still some political scandals in the air in New Zealand, but they'll get a break from them this week. All right, so that's it for this week. Thank you all so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please subscribe, like, ring the notification bell, and share. Okay. And I love you all, and I'll see you before next year. But in the meantime, have a happy holiday, no matter how you celebrate it. I was raised Episcopalian, so I still celebrate Christmas. So for those of you who haven't given up on the holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, um, whatever tradition you belong to. My blessings are with you, and I love you very much, and I thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.